Right, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Fourth Down Focus. I'm back with James and Caden. No Kean this week because he's a fraud. We're gonna do the usual stuff this week. Get through our teams, predictions, any news that's happened. So we'll start off with the Bengals, please, Caden.
Boo! We are shit. Zach Taylor, you need to sort yourself out, mate. I can't believe we lost that game. I really can't. We had the opportunity for a walk-off field goal twice, and we bottled it. And then they went and scored, and it made me very sad. And I hate this sport. I hate the franchise. I hate everyone that works for anything to do with the Bengals and the Chargers. And I hope they cut Evan McPherson. And I still love Joe Burrow. That's all from me.
I was just gonna point out. Are you mad because the Bengals lost, or are you mad because McPherson cost you your bet?
That didn't help at all. If
Gamble responsibly, everyone. Gamble responsibly.
Yes.
Right, James. James, how are you feeling, mate?
It was a great week for me. Yeah, we're on a bye, so we didn't even play. So
exactly.
Yeah, it was a fantastic week to be a Giants fan because we didn't have to watch it. But we'll get on some news of the Giants and later on. But for once it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't for once a depressing week following the Giants. So we probably still find a way to lose on our bye week, but for once we actually didn't. So, pretty good week, all things considered.
As for me, the Browns, I think I finally decided that our playoff run is not happening now. just now. Yeah, it's a tough one to take, but 2-8 are we? I think it's rough. The Saints, we got absolutely battered by Taysom Hill, of all people. I don't know how many yards he ended up with. He ran for 75 yards untouched and scored a touchdown at the end. That was his third touchdown of the game. Derek Carr just obliterated us in the second half. Jameis Winston threw for almost 400 yards, and it meant absolutely nothing because we just couldn't get anything going on offense. So, yeah, a terrible week as always to be a Browns fan. And I'm not looking forward to Thursday night football, which we'll get onto later, I'm sure. What's next, James?
Yeah, I mean, you said about the Browns as well. You're now second in the draft order, is it, or is it third?
Third, I think. I think it's Jags, Titans, then us.
Oh yeah, Jag Titans you. Then it's now us because for somehow the Cowboys losing meant that the Raiders went below us in the thing. Not quite sure how it all works, but we're now fourth pick. I won't complain because the Raiders are probably one of our only teams we're competing with quarterback, so I won't complain. But we'll move on to sort of the game. We'll move on to sort of the games throughout the week. Eagles versus the Commanders on Thursday Night Football. Eagles win again. Commanders yet again lose to a team with a winning record. My question to sort of pose is it finally time to admit from you two, after I said it last week, the Commanders are overrated? I'll start with you, Max.
No. I backed the Eagles in this game because the Eagles they're a good team now. Last year, a bit they looked strong and then they fell off. They had a big skid, which is coming, by the way. The Eagles skid is scheduled for around this time of year, so expect that to come. But no, I think it was a tough game, and there's not much you can ask for a rookie quarterback going up against a team like the Eagles. And I think the Commanders will carry on the form that they had towards the start of the season. I don't think they're frauds whatsoever.
Caden?
I don't think they're frauds either, and I think you've just got some weird agenda against the Commanders. I do think they are a very good team.
Why?
Yeah, I do wonder why. But they're not overrated. They are a good team, and I think this year they've exceeded expectations so much, and you wouldn't do that well if you weren't a good team.
I just think they can't beat anyone who's good. And if they get into a playoff situation, they're going to get sent home straight away in that wildcard round because I don't know what it is when they play anyone who's even remotely decent, but I think it exposes that roster isn't actually that good. Like, it's looked good, and I said before the season, and I said it throughout the season, I don't think it is good. I think it just looks good. I think Dan Quinn's done a great job with what he has because it's still very limited, I think. There's still quite a few areas where there's massive weaknesses in that team. Especially, I don't think the defense is all too impressive in a lot of the games against these big teams. It does struggle, but I overrate might be a bit harsh. But I suppose if I asked the question to you about the Steelers, you'd probably say they are, even though I completely disagree with you and say they're not. So I think it's probably a gender-based division.
That's where you're wrong, James, because as a Browns fan, I've come to learn that we'll never be good, so it's time to just appreciate our rivals for how good they are.
We've won 2 Super Bowls in my lifetime, so I'm not even going to go down that direction of admitting that we're not. That there's a chance we won't be good again.
We've not
I refuse to accept. Moving on to speaking of the Steelers beating the Ravens, 6 Chris Boswell field goals in the end, to which won the Steelers the game. Not 1 touchdown. Ravens getting 2 touchdowns and still losing the game. Sort of 2 questions really. One, I mean, you might have just answered it there, Max, but are the Steelers now contenders? And 2, are the wheels falling off a bit for the Baltimore Ravens, or was it just a blip in a game they tend to lose quite often anyway?
I'm going to reiterate 2 things that I've already said for both questions there. The first question being about the Steelers. I think they're dangerous, but because they are the Steelers, they're not going to do anything with it in the playoffs. They're going to fail at the first hurdle, maybe in the divisional round if they're lucky. And about the Ravens, since we beat them, I've not been as convinced by them, because how are you getting beat by the Browns? It's terrible. I just don't think they're that same offense that everyone was scared of in the start of the season. Derrick Henry, they locked him up quite well. Lamar's not quite wheeling and dealing the same as he was in the start. It's the wheels are coming off a little bit, but I think they'll still probably do quite well.
Caden?
Yeah, I think it was last week that I think the Ravens are an overrated team this year. And like you said, the Steelers, they do get the win against the Ravens quite a lot. But it is incredibly boring the way they're winning these games. Like, not scoring a single touchdown and beating the Ravens is impressive in itself. But when they're doing that regularly and they're winning these games by just consistently scoring field goals, I think it makes them look better than they are based on their record. I wouldn't say they're contenders for the conference. I think they already pretty much got our division boxed off, if you ask me. But yeah, boring team, but a good team because they get the wins.
I just think that defense is probably the best in the NFL, because that defense is carrying them through every game, even when the offense isn't what it was. There was them games where Justin Fields was a bit slower, so they had to rely on the defense and Boswell, who's automatic at this point. And you got the game against the Ravens once again. Russ is having a bit of a slow game, so you just rely on that defense.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it is one of the best units in the NFL, and I think it's also a credit to the whole team being so good, to Mike Tomlin. You know, when you have a coach that experienced, it's always going to be a bonus. And as I said, it's another one of them teams where, but I think they're a level above sort of like Commander sort of thing, where it's just like overperforming, because they are a good team. Like, Russell Wilson is a good quarterback, and I know he's had his issues in the last couple of seasons, but he is a good quarterback. He's won a Super Bowl. Like, you can't argue with his quality, but I think it's difficult to say they're going to be contenders in the AFC because realistically, there's better teams that they're going to end up facing in the conference, later rounds of the playoffs if they get there. But so I think they'll struggle in that sense. And as you said,
doesn't matter who they play in the playoffs, they're going to bottle it.
Yeah, and I agree with Kate in a way. I don't think the Ravens are as good as they're made out to be. Obviously, Derrick Henry's a joke. Lamar's a joke. But the thing that the Ravens always got praised for the last couple of seasons anyway was their defense, and it's just not been that good this year. I think they've really regressed somehow, and I don't really get it because they've still got everyone.
You know who else?
I think it's still been good. Who?
Justin Tucker.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened. What was it? Was it 2 missed field goals in the game against Steelers?
Maybe. I saw a stat. I think it was in the Cowboys game after the Brandon Aubrey slipped and missed that one, and it was just talking about like the kickers this season. So a lot of them have just been a bit off it, and it showed Justin Tucker's stats, and I was like shocked by how many he'd missed.
I think it's like he was like the most accurate kicker in the NFL, and now it's Eddie Pinero from the Panthers who's the most accurate after Tucker missed them field goals. But Yeah, there's just been regression in the areas which everyone thought they were just locked down to be good in, and sort of areas where maybe people didn't expect them to be as good. Like offensively, people were concerned, probably especially before Derrick Henry was traded, because you've got Zay, but then apart from that, your offense is a bit stale. Mark Andrews is a weird one. He's so on and off at the minute. He's not. He hasn't really have a consistent run of unreal games like he was having last year. So I think it's an interesting one to look at with the Ravens, but I don't think they'll be near the Super Bowl this year, as much as people may disagree with me on that one. Speaking of these sort of AFC contending teams, the Bills end the reign of terror. The celebrations began everywhere around the world. The Bills beat the Chiefs. I believe, what are they now, like 4-1 or 3-0 something in regular season against the Chiefs now in the last couple of years.
So going to get beat by them in the playoffs, unfortunately.
Exactly. So yeah, we know if them two face off in the playoffs, we know what's going to happen. But I'll start this one off. It was just refreshing to see for once the Chiefs playing badly and losing a game. They weren't great at all. Bills did their job. Josh Allen is fantastic, and it was just an all-round unbelievable game from the Bills. I think it's an interesting one to say now. Do you then shift them to being the best team in the AFC at the minute, which there is probably a very strong argument to say yes, because they're playing unreal. You can't argue with the results. They're 9-2. I think it's a difficult one to say. Are they? Will they? As we said, we tend to see what happens if they win in the regular season against the Chiefs. They tend to lose in the playoffs. So is there an argument to say that are they good enough to go all the way to the Super Bowl, which I think they are if they hold their nerve in the playoffs. But
the Chiefs got a guest, everyone. We've got a guest.
Everyone.
It's Kia.
Why?
Sorry, I can't be there. I'll be on next week with some more terrible predictions.
Get out, you fraud.
Panthers win, by the way. Panthers win.
What I'm saying.
Fraud.
Fuck you.
Get out. Carry on.
Lovely guess. But yeah, I just think the Bills have just got to hold their nerve in the playoffs because they are a better team, I think, than the Chiefs. They just can't seem to make that final step to make that Super Bowl. Caden, what do you think?
I think the Super Bowl that everyone wants is the Bills and the Lions. And I think it will still be the Chiefs that go there, unfortunately. But if the Bills can keep playing like that and beat the Chiefs in the regular season and losing the playoffs, then it's quite disheartening, I think. I'd hate to be a Bills fan and have that happen every time. I can't really remember what your question was. Kian distracted me, I'm going to be honest. But I feel like, yeah. But
who's sort of just are they the best team in the AFC now after that win?
I think they're the best team, but they're not the best at winning games because that's obviously the Chiefs, because they always find the way, and I hate it.
Max?
It's a very interesting one. We asked the question a few weeks ago what our predicted Super Bowl match was, and I didn't really have the Bills as a contender in that match, but since they've got Amari Cooper from us, who is playing out of his skin at the minute for them, which is a little bit annoying. I don't know. I just think they look like they were a serious team anyway, a more serious team now that they've got that kind of weapon. They've got Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir. I think he's a bit banged up after that game. Obviously, Josh Allen is an insane athlete. He can do crazy things, and I think he'll continue to. I think James Cook needs to start putting in a bit more effort because Josh Allen being the leading rusher in that team scares me a bit. I just don't want him to get injured because if he does, their season's over as far as I'm concerned. I think their backup's Mitch Trubisky, if I'm not mistaken. You don't want that. You really don't want that. And the defense is also playing up. Ed Oliver, some other guys on there. Matt Milano, is he out this season? I'm not even sure. Point is, the Bills might be the best team in the AFC right now. It's between them, the Chiefs, and the Steelers, maybe. Maybe the Chargers. The Chargers have impressed me recently, and I might even pick them on Monday Night Football. Who knows? We'll get to that later.
Well, it leads nicely in because the last game we're going to talk about for this week is the Chargers. We obviously mentioned it with Caden. They did beat the Bengals 34-27 in the end. was a bit dodgy towards the end, sort of mounting that comeback from, was it 27-6, I want to say, down? Back to 27 all, and then losing it in the end eventually, as Evan McPherson can't seemingly kick a field goal at the minute. It seems to be all the big kickers in the NFL at the minute are having a bit of a nightmare, because Aubrey missed a couple in the Cowboys game as well. Tucker was better than Mare, McPherson had a Mare, so a bit of a weird week for the kickers. But my sort of question was, and I mean, two questions were, Caden will probably have a very strong opinion. Half of it is, should Zach Taylor be fired as head coach? And my second one is, Justin Herbert a genuine MVP contender? I'll start with you, Caden, because as I said, I feel like you've got quite a strong opinion on Zach Taylor.
Yeah, not a big fan of Zach Taylor. I think we need to do the right thing and fire him. It's been, I think, the last 5, maybe 6 weeks, majority of our fan base are calling for him to be sacked. And I think if we'd done that a bit earlier, we could have turned our season around a bit. But I don't think they'll get rid of him until next season now, because we're already so far into the season and we're not going to be in the playoffs anymore. So unfortunately, Zach Taylor's going to be he's going to be our gaffer for the rest of the season. It's really making me upset. And Justin Herbert, MVP contender, I don't think so as of now. But if he can continue to keep playing this well, then he definitely could be a contender, especially if they get a bit of a run in the playoffs as well.
Max?
Can I just say that might be the most, the least delusional I've heard Caden on this podcast all year. He's actually, for the first time, admitted that the Bengals are probably not going to win the playoffs.
No, I said this last week as well.
That's just really caught me off guard there. What was the question? Zach Taylor? Yeah, he should probably be fired. You've got that offense. You've got Burrow and Chase. You put them with any other team, and that team's looking like a Super Bowl contender. But the Bengals, I just can't take them seriously, and that's putting bias aside as well. I think Joe Burrow, like we said last week, he's an MVP player on a terrible team, and I don't know what's going wrong. I think Zach Taylor is probably the only person who can take the flak for this, because they can't sack off the defense and start again, or the O-line, whatever the problem is. I think Zach Taylor might. I think he's definitely on the hot seat. I don't know if he'll get fired. There's a few coaches on the hot seat right now. Him, Eberflus, like we said last week. You thought he actually was fired, you and Kian. Kevin Stefanski for us as well, maybe, but I think that'd be a mistake, to be honest. And as for Justin Herbert, it's for Justin Herbert. Look, if you're a gambling man, gamble responsibly, everyone. But if you're a gambling man, he could be an outside shout to put a little outright on for MVP. I think there's a world where he has that caliber season, because he started getting more involved with the offense. He's got weapons that we didn't think he had. He's got Lad McConkey. Quentin Johnston is playing out of his skin at the minute. No one saw that coming. I think there's an outside shout that he's in the MVP race, Justin Herbert, and the Chargers are looking very, very strong.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Zach Taylor goes, I feel so bad for Joe Burrow, because his whole career has just been ifs and maybe. Because we're all honest, Joe Burrow is a Super Bowl caliber winning quarterback, and he's probably never going to have the chance to do so because his team is so bad. That offense is electric. Him and Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, it's a joke. It's an absolutely unbelievable offense. It's probably one of the best, if not the best, offensive units in the league. But that defense is constantly letting the team down. And at some point, the flak's got to stop with the coach, because it's his job. I know obviously you have defensive coordinators and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, it's his team. He's got to make sure his team wins games. And if his team's not winning games, then it's not because of that offense. It isn't. And we've seen that now. Burrow, I saw a stat, and it was like, Burrow's thrown for 300 plus yards and 3 touchdowns with 0 interceptions in 3 games, and the Bengals have lost all of them games this season. That is absolutely crazy to sort of see how much they struggle. So I think he's got to go soon, I think, because I just think they need a bit of a refresh in that coaching department. And I don't know what it is, but in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've just got really high on the Chargers. I think they're unreal. Every time I watch them, I genuinely think they're the best team I've seen all week.
I think as you said, I've been high on them. Since we played them and I saw how good they were. I mean, we're not good, obviously, but I went into that game. I think I backed us in that game, and I just watched us get absolutely obliterated by them. And I thought, you know what? the Chargers are a real team.
Yeah, I just think I'd 100% put a bet on Justin Herbert if I was a gambling man to outright MVP because because Justin Herbert, I think, is playing unbelievable, and who knew he was a dual threat quarterback because he's having an unreal season rushing as well, which no one saw coming at all. That's what you get with Jim Harbaugh. You know, he's always going to implement the running game, and he has done really well, and he's made Herbert somehow be fast, which none of us, I don't think anyone thought he was. But yeah, I think that the Chargers, I think it's genuinely an outside contender to be in that AFC Championship game. Like it's just, I genuinely do believe that because they are that good. I think I really do believe they are that good to have a chance to get there because they'll sort of sneak in as a lower seed as well because the records might not be the best by the end of the season. But I mean, they are 7-3. To be fair, they could as high be a top 4 seed going into it, and I think they deserve it. I think Harbaugh's a great coach, and I think they're a great team. I think they do really well. So we'll move on to some news. There's not much news, and all of it that I've got noted down is out of New York. Shock horror. First of all, we'll start with the Jets. Joe Douglas, GM of the Jets, has been sacked. Rob Saleh gone 6 weeks ago, I believe. They're 1-5 since he's gone, and now Joe Douglas has taken the other casualty. Max, sort of Jets just hitting the reset button, it seems, in every sort of department.
The Jets are ridiculous at this point. James. Oh no, he's back. The Jets are. I don't know what's going on there, man. Do they sack Aaron Rodgers next? Is he doing the sacking here? I don't know what's going on. He's brought in his offensive coordinator. He's shit. He's brought in Davante Adams. Still not working. I've got them as my. I'm going to do a spoiler alert. I've got them as my losers this week in the winners and losers segment, and I'm just going to get into it now. They're terrible. They had a win in the palm of their hands against the Colts, and Anthony Richardson snagged it back from them with 1 point. I don't understand. We've been saying it all season. What's going wrong? They have the quality there to be a good team, and it's just not happening. And I think the blame is going to have to just fall to Aaron Rodgers at this point because no one else, there's no other fingers to point at anyone else.
Kid?
Yeah, I can't help but I don't know whether to feel sorry for them or to laugh at them because it's just seems to be every week something else has gone wrong for them and someone else has lost a job there, and it could genuinely be anyone next week. We really don't know, but yeah, they do have the roster to be a good team. They're just not a good team, and I still don't know why. When you've got Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback and you're bringing in receivers, you're trading for receivers that should be helping you get across the field as well as they should be, and as well as Davante Adams, especially, as well as we know he can do. I feel like there is a really big problem with the Jets, and they can't seem to find what it is.
I mean, I've got an idea of what it is. That defense has gone to absolute. I don't even know what's happened, but Sauce Gardner looks terrible this season. Like he's been.
They're not even calling him Sauce anymore. They're not even calling him Sauce Gardner anymore. He's Ahmed Gardner now.
No, it's like
he's lost the sauce.
It's been awful. Like every time I've watched the Jets and I've watched their defense, it's always him giving up the big plays. And like it seems like I saw one. I don't know who it was against. It was a couple of weeks ago. He tried to tackle someone and he just tried to grab him. He's just like getting dragged along the floor. Like he just couldn't bring him down. I don't know what's happened to the guy, but that whole defense has fallen to pieces. You know, people came into this season sort of high on it as if it was like a top 5 defensive unit. And on paper, it probably was coming out of last season. You know, you've got McDonald on the outside. You know, he got like 9 sacks this season. He's still doing all right. And you know, you got Sauce Gardner. You got a great little secondary, but it's just not been a good secondary at all. And I think they've relied too much on Sauce Gardner, and now he's useless at the minute. But I think it's just the Jets just giving up on just everything and just trying to hit reset. But I think if you're going to hit full reset, Aaron Rodgers has got to be the next one out the door because you cannot have the reset if you've got him at quarterback. And I think they're in an awkward situation now. They're not going to get a good draft pick to get a quarterback, but I don't think Aaron Rodgers would let them draft a quarterback anyway.
I think it just really hit me how bad they were when I was watching the Jets game, and it just panned to the crowd, and there were the 2 guys in the paper bags It just has same old Jets on it. Oh, like, yeah, that's some Cleveland Browns shit right there. That's when you know it's bad.
Yeah, not ideal. Another news outside of New York. I don't know if it's a good day or a bad day to be me, but Daniel Jones' reign of terror on this franchise is finally over, it seems. He's been benched for Tommy DeVito, so sort of just skipped straight over Drew Lock and went straight to DeVito. For me, it's a sensible move. Brian Daboll knows that DeVito works in his system. Drew Lock was a bit unknown. He was injured throughout preseason. You probably don't want to risk it. He didn't look great in preseason anyway. When he did play, I'll be honest, he's terrible at the minute. So I'd rather just go with DeVito as a safer option. But my one worry is we might win too many games now and end up with a mediocre draft pick when we need a top 3 or 4 draft pick really to get someone beneficial to our franchise. But I think, yeah, it's a safe. It screams to me like a man whose job is on the line and he's gone for a big decision which no one thought he was going to make, because it sort of seemed like set in stone. Jones was going to ride out the rest of the year and then it would be done by the end of it. But apparently he's now QB3 on the depth chart as well. So Drew Lock is the backup going forward and Daniel Jones is the third quarterback, which is interesting as well, because if they've just completely lost all faith in him. I don't know how it took this long to lose all faith in him, but they've finally realised he's not good and he's not a franchise quarterback, even though we've given him 7 years and £40 million guaranteed. But, you know, what can you do? But I think I'd say, again, it's the end of Daniel Jones' starting career in the NFL, you'd imagine.
Unfortunately, it is the end of Daniel Jones' starting career in the NFL. And he will be missed, because I can't think of many quarterbacks that were as funny to watch as Daniel Jones. And I'm just glad I'm not a Giants fan, because if that was my starting quarterback every week, I'd just never watch the games. And he will be missed solely because of the amount of funny things he's done, especially this season.
Max?
I don't think it's the end of his starting career. I think they're probably just going to see what DeVito has to offer and just try it. They're just throwing anything at the wall and seeing if it'll stick at the minute, kind of thing. I like Tommy DeVito. He passes the vibe check. You know, last season, the DeVito hype train was a fun few weeks of the season. But I don't think you need to worry about winning too many games. I think your season's probably over, James. I'll be honest, mate. I won't worry about it.
It's 100% over, but we did it when we brought DeVito in last time, and when Daniel Jones got injured, and we started winning a couple of games, and then we ended up with a 6th pick when we could have probably ended up in the top 3, and then we missed out on Drake May and Jane Daniels because of it, which is what I'm worried about.
Would you have taken them? Paid
100%.
Big money. Paid Danny Dimes big money.
If we had top, we were aggressively trying to trade up for Drake May, like aggressively with Patriots. But they were never, like, people argue it, like, they were never trading them picks. Patriots were never not taking May, and the Commanders were never not taking Daniels. Like, it was always going to happen. So nothing we could have done apart from lost more games during the season, because we ended up like 6 wins, and it's just a horrid situation to be in at 6-11 record. Like, you just don't want that in any situation at all.
I feel that's what the Browns ended up doing somehow. I feel like we're just going to put a few wins together and then just completely ruin the draft, but not do anything this season. Finish like 5 wins, 6 wins.
I mean, if you throw 400 yards and still lose, I think you might be all right on that front.
That's very true.
I'll be honest. I mean, you touched on it, Max. So I'll start with you. So, our winners and losers segment of the week. You might as well just give us your win. We'll start with winners, but you might as well just not even give us your losers, because you've already pretty much explained in detail who your losers are of the week. But who are your winners of the week?
The losers are the Jets. We know that. They're terrible. Our winners, as much as it pains me, are the Pittsburgh Steelers football team. They just, at the minute, they look scary, and obviously they're not going to be my winners in the playoffs because they bottle it every time. I'll keep saying that. I'll die on that hill. They're not doing anything in the playoffs. But right now, in the regular season, they're on a run that is... It's frightening. I think their defense and the special teams is able to carry them through games when the offense can't. And when the offense can, it's scary to behold. You've got Russ firing on all cylinders. George Pickens is becoming one of my favorite players in the NFL, which annoys me because he plays in black and yellow. Najee Harris is a really good running back. And you've got Jalen Warren in there too. The defense, obviously, TJ Watt, Highsmith. You've got just players all over the pitch that are looking really good. And like you keep saying, James, Mike Tomlin is a really good coach and he knows how to operate a franchise until the end of the season when the playoffs arrive.
Caden?
Well, I'll start with my winners of the week. My winners of the week are the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, because imagine how good it must feel to see the entire country of America and all over the world celebrating your win, and they don't have any affiliation with you. They took down the Chiefs, and it was celebrated right, and everyone loved it, apart from Chiefs fans.
Yeah, so leads nicely to my winners of the week are every NFL fan that doesn't support the Kansas City Chiefs, because it's the result that absolutely everybody else wanted. They've been getting away with it for too long now, and it was nice to see they finally handed, as I said, a loss that they deserved, because they've deserved a few of them, and they've got away with it. The Broncos, they should have lost. I think the Falcons, they probably should have lost. There's been a few games like that, but they finally get to the last 5 minutes, and the game didn't get thrown their way, and Josh Allen made sure to kill it off. So I'm going to go with the entire NFL, basically, apart from the Chiefs. Caden, your losers of the week?
My losers of the week are the Cincinnati Bengals, unfortunately. I can't think of a more heartbreaking result in the NFL this game week. I think missing the opportunity for 2 walk-off field goals and then having a touchdown scored against you in the last seconds of the game after you've been 3 scores behind and brought it back, it just sums up the Bengals season, if I'm being honest, and it's tragic.
Yeah, mine was Joe Burrow, because I feel like he must hate his life right now, because he's playing probably the best football he's ever played in his entire career. And what are you, 4-7? I think it's
yeah.
I feel so bad for the bloke. I think he's one of the best in the NFL, and especially this season, he probably would be in the MVP conversations comfortably, maybe even leading them if the Bengals were on like a 7-3 or 6-4 record. But unfortunately for him, his team is terrible, and he's been constantly let down by that franchise. And he must absolutely hate it, knowing how well he's playing and getting nothing in return for it. So that's sort of the roundup of the news and the results for the week. We're going to move on to our, I believe it's week 12 now, our week 12 predictions. So I took my bye week last week. So
which means
my scores didn't
there's a
count.
new champ. There's a new champ in the predictions table. It's going up here. You can see it. Who's the champ? It's me.
Yeah, Max in the lead. Now I've fallen to last technically, albeit I actually got kind of lucky in a way, because Kian had a bit of a stinker, and he's now only 3 ahead of me instead of what I thought he'd be about 7 or 8 ahead of me. So, and Caden's 1 ahead of me. But as Caden now has to take his bye week, as we both agreed that we'll take our bye weeks on the weeks that our actual teams have their byes. So as the Bengals are on their bye next week, he will take his bye for the predictions this week. So we'll start off with the Browns and the Steelers. So Max, as normal, I will let you begin.
Look, there's a chance. Oh, by the way, I am going to put Kian's predictions down at the bottom. So if you're listening to this, if he actually bothers to put this one on Spotify this week, sorry. Look, there's a chance this is a trap game. There's a chance the Browns could win this game. A very, very small one. A very, very small chance. But I am taking the Steelers just because we're terrible. They are one of the best teams in the AFC. It's as simple as that. But just let it be known that I said there's an outside chance that we catch them off guard here, because when historically not that bad against the Steelers in recent years.
Cade?
Well, I've got a weird feeling that the Browns are going to get a weird win against the Steelers.
There you go.
It just feels like a perfectly reasonable thing to happen, because, well, why wouldn't it? The Browns almost have nothing to play for, and the Steelers looking to push on to the playoffs and make it past the first game. And I think this is where the Steelers could start a bit of pressure put on them with a loss against the Browns.
Look, hear me out. This is weird, right? If this game was at 6 p.m. on a Sunday, or 1 p.m. if we've got any Americans watching, if this game was at that time and not a prime time game where we've got the pressure of the entire nation and the world watching us, I think we'd win it. if it was a 6 p.m. game. Not that it makes any difference to the game at all, but I just think we'd win it and it'd go slightly under the radar. But because it's prime time, we're probably just going to bottle under the pressure.
Yeah, I'd like to have clarified that Caden is on a bye week, so all of his predictions are going to be a genuine insanity, and I don't think even he believes it. And obviously, Max is the Browns fan, so this is where all this rubbish is coming from. Yeah, the Steelers are going to win this game quite easily. The Browns are terrible. As I said, they can throw 400 yards and still lose by 3 scores. It's insane. When you got Taysom Hill playing 4 different positions against you and literally dunking on you in every single position that he played, it's probably a sign. So I'm going with the Steelers. They've looked great. Just a very strong Ravens team, and they only have to be probably 25% as good as they were against the Ravens to beat the Browns. So I think they should be fine. Next up, we've got Keely's not here for his favourite team, the Chicago Bears, taking on the Minnesota Vikings in a divisional NFC North matchup. Kane, you can start us off for this one.
I've gone for the Vikings. I think the Bears' fall off will continue, and I think the Vikings are going to keep getting these sort of wins. I think people started writing them off and they started losing a couple after their good run at the start of the year. But I think they should beat the Bears. And it's also a bit of a derby because me and James went to the Vikings practice session from them, and Keane and Max went to the Chicago Bears one. So
they're down.
A little bit of a derby there, but I will take the Vikings.
Yeah, I'm also going to agree with you. I'm going to take the Vikings. I don't think they were particularly great against the Titans, mind. It probably wasn't. And they've been, they've had a couple of shaky games now in a row, but it's a weird one. I could see it going either way, to be honest, because they're both, the Vikings obviously just getting them wins when they need to, and the Bears can't even kick field goals to win games anymore. So I think the Bears are struggling, and I think the Vikings have a chance to sort of cement themselves as that second seed coming out of that division, because they've got 3 insanely good teams in that division and then the Chicago Bears. So this is not a game, especially divisionally, that they can afford to be slipping up on. So I'm going to go with the Vikings. Max?
Bear down. The Chicago Bears are winning this game. They got very, very close to beating who I think are one of the best teams in the NFL right now, the Green Bay Packers. And I think the Packers are levels above the Vikings at the minute. I think the Vikings look really, really shaky after the strong start. And I think eventually it's going to come back to haunt them. And I think the Bears, look, Caleb had a bit of a better game this week. He's building up momentum again. And I think he's capable of getting a win here against the Vikings. So I'm gonna back the Bears, which is the first time I've actually done so since me and Kian went to that camp, apart from the London game. I backed them in that London game.
Moving on. We've got the Dolphins against the Patriots. I'll start this one off for a change. I don't know why. I just do like the Patriots in a way. I just feel like they have that capability to win a game, and I think Drake May. So he's definitely not had the best season, obviously, because he didn't start for half of it. But I think as far as who's going to have the best career out of quarterbacks in this draft class, it's going to be Drake May, I think, by quite a distance. The guy, he's just so talented. And there's a reason why I was like praying out we trade up for him in the draft, because he's just great. But I am going to hit the Dolphins. I feel like they need to keep winning these games in order to get any chance in that playoff push. I think they're on their way. They should sneak in now if they keep winning, as long as they maintain a winning sort of win at least 5 or 6 of the last few games. They should be okay. They've been playing well, getting better every week. Tyreek's finally getting back to the Tyreek Hill that we know. Tua back, looking more comfortable after his concussion. So I'm going to back the Dolphins to win this one. Max?
Yeah, I've got the Finns as well. I've backed the Patriots a few times now. I think me and you, James, we both secret Patriots fans maybe, now that they're not a giant in the league. I really like Drake May, but I think the Dolphins, I think they can probably see a chance to maybe squeeze into this AFC playoff race here. The Jets are out of the race. Let's not take the piss here. They're gone. The Patriots probably not going to be able to mount enough wins to get there. So the Dolphins could steal that second spot behind the Bills and maybe sneak into that wild card. And I think they're going to start picking up some wins now, especially now Tua's back and playing some of his best football probably.
Yeah, I'd like to clarify. I'm very much not a Patriots fan. I am a Drake May fan, and that is all. I do not like the Patriots. And
I don't mind them.
Eli Manning owns that franchise anyway, so... Kid?
I've gone for the Dolphins. I think if they win this, they do have a very solid chance of making it into the playoffs. So I think they're going to give everything they've got against the Patriots. And I do like Drake May. I think he's quite a cool guy, but he will not beat the Dolphins. I think with Tua back, they've been, obviously, as expected, a completely different team to watch. And I think they'll win this and they'll continue their playoff push.
Next up, we have another NFC East matchup for the Commanders, 2 in 2 weeks. This time it's the Dallas Cowboys. I believe it's in Washington as well. Max, you can start us off.
Since you said earlier that this is the most Cowboys win you've ever seen, it's thrown me off a bit. But I mean, I watched Monday Night Football. The players give up like halfway through the game. Cooper Rush, maybe his best game as a Cowboy, and he still wasn't that good. I think maybe it's time to throw in Trey Lance, personally. I don't know. Maybe there's a reason they aren't throwing him in. Maybe he don't look ready in practice or something. But, I mean, the guy got drafted 3rd overall, and he just got screwed out of his place in San Francisco by an injury, and Brock Purdy being an incredible talent. If they throw him in, maybe they get a win. But I think the Commanders need this, and I think they'll probably take the win here.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously haven't seen it, but Cooper Rush is indeed sticking as the starter. They have said that in the last couple of days, I believe. Yeah, they have said Cooper Rush is going to continue to start. And I do agree with you because there's a reason Trey Lance went 3rd overall, and I don't really think he's ever been bad. I just don't think he's ever had a chance to show what he's actually capable of. Because, he came 3rd overall. Yeah, the injury came in, then obviously Brock Purdy's turned out to be a god in disguise somehow. Mr. Irrelevant just turned out to be unbelievable. But I think it's worth a go. Like, there's no benefit in playing Cooper Rush to me. Like, I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback because he's not great, is he? But like, he does the job now and again. Obviously they're not winning games, but he's throwing the ball for a decent amount of yards every game. Obviously it's just a stale team really, and all round he hasn't really got a run option to go for. So I think it's worth giving him a go, but obviously they're not going to this week anyway. But as I said, Matt just said, I did see it as a weird game where the Cowboys could sneak in. I am really tempted to go with it, but I just can't. As the Commanders only beat teams under 500, I'm going to back the Commanders to beat another under 500 team in this one. Caden?
I'm going to back the Commanders as well. I was trying to think of a reason to maybe lean towards the Cowboys, but I genuinely can't think of a single reason for me to do that, especially after watching them the other day. I think the Commanders, as you said, they're playing against a team that don't have a positive record. So if your theory is correct, James, they should get a win.
It is correct. You'll see it when they don't beat a team over 500 for the rest of the season. Next up, probably the funniest game of the week. The Carolina Panthers against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I feel like we're going to have some interesting predictions in this one. Do you know what, Kane? We'll just let you get yours over with because I know what's coming.
Well, the Chiefs were 9-0. Then they were 9-1. And this time, when we're filming the next episode next week, they will be 9-2 because Carolina are going to pull it out of the bag and they are going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs.
Are you sure we want to let him have his bye week?
Yeah, honestly, I'll just let him just have these ones.
It just makes sense in my head.
Look, we're going to come back to this, and I'll say it again: gamble responsibly. But if you're a gambling man, hammer the spread on the Carolina Panthers because this is going to be another close game, and the Chiefs are going to win by 3, 4, 5 points. But I think the spread is like 10.5, 11 maybe for the Panthers. Just hammer it. Just put the mortgage on it because this game is going to be really close, more close than people think. But like I said, gamble responsibly.
Gamble responsibly.
Chiefs win by a few points.
The Chiefs win. Like, there's nothing else to say about it. Like, the Panthers, they've had their little run. They've had their 2 wins in a row, whatever it is. And, when you look at the teams they've played in that little run, you'll understand how they've managed to win 2 games in a row. But the Chiefs are not a team that will be losing to Carolina. It would be funny, and, it's sort of them ones where you think it's one of them. There's always one loss in a season where, like, where did that come from? And it might be, this has the potential to be one of them, but I feel like the Chiefs are more likely to slip somewhere like the Raiders. In that sense, for Keane's happiness, it's probably going to be that team.
I think the Raiders will spoil for next week, everyone. I've been saying this for weeks, so I think the Raiders are going to be the other team that get a sneaky win over the Chiefs. Divisional rival. Yeah. They've beaten before. I don't know.
I do agree. I can see that one, but yeah, I'm going to go with the Chiefs for this one. Moving on to the Texans against the Titans. Texans coming off their Monday Night Football win. Titans not necessarily having a bad game against the Vikings, but ultimately losing again to push them to the second overall pick in the draft order. Caden, you can start this one.
Yeah, I do this quite a lot. I will say Texans good, Titans bad. So Houston definitely going to get a win here. Another one of the ones where I don't see a reason that they wouldn't win because they're not in a position to slip up or anything. They looked quite good the other night against the Cowboys, and they really should be beating the Titans if we're being honest. So I think they will.
Max?
Divisional matchup. Will Levis has give his head a little bit of a wobble. Clearly, he's no more memes. He's starting to be a bit more serious. He's making some plays. I really like Nick Westbrook-Ikhine this season. He's gone under the radar, but he's getting those touchdowns. But the Titans are just terrible, so no one's talking about it. There's a chance the Titans somehow pull something off the Texans. Have been a little bit off the pace since halftime in the Lions game. Really, they kind of just. But it's stupid to not take the Texans this game, so I'm going to take H-Town.
Yeah, they were good against the Cowboys. As I said, it's not exactly difficult, but as I said, the Titans are definitely worse than the Cowboys, which is saying something. I don't think they've been bad in the last couple of games. They have shown glimpses of a potentially decent team, but I just think someone like the Texans are just going to find the weaknesses in that team quite easily, and they're going to expose them fairly quickly. And, as I said, the Texans look good again. So they're a weird team. They can sort of look really good and then look really terrible the next week. So it's an interesting one to see what happens with it. But I am going to bet the Texans to win this one. Next up can probably be a one-word answer. The Colts against the Lions. Max?
Lions.
Caden?
Lions.
And Lions. I don't think anything else really needs to be said about this one. Colts did win, but it's the Lions who just put 52 points on the Jags' head like it was nothing. So yeah, we'll go with the Lions. Next up, I've just seen what it is. The Giants against the Buccaneers. I'll get it out of the way. We're not winning again for the rest of this. Well, I hope we don't win again for the rest of the season. I am actively hoping we lose, which sounds mental, but we need the good draft pick. We can't win games now. The Bucs are good. Mike Evans, I think, is probably going to be back as well, which is just great news for us. He's going to absolutely destroy our secondary. Deontay Banks has had an awful season, and it's going to continue trying to guard either Mike Evans or I don't even know who the other receivers are, but whoever it is, he's not going to be able to stop them.
Sterling Shepard,
former Giant. Oh, great! He's scoring 3 touchdowns then, isn't he?
Hammer the over on Sterling Shepard.
Yeah, Sterling Shepard over receiving touchdowns. Promise you, it's guaranteed. Max, this could have been a one-word answer as well, to be honest, but.
Look, I hate backing against Baker. I say it every time. This is definitely not a game where I'm going to back against Baker. I think the Bucs are probably going to tear you a new one. That's as simply as I can put it.
Caden?
Yeah, the Bucs winning is probably the best result for you as well, James. So it's probably a good thing that we've all predicted the Bucs win. So Baker's going to do the business, of course. I have no doubt in my mind.
No, you're absolutely correct. It is definitely the best thing that can happen to us because if we win, it's just going to end up being worse for us in the future. So I'd rather just lose at this point. Next up, Ian not here to make his predictions for this one. At the minute, we'll put it at the bottom, obviously, but I wonder what he'll say. The Raiders against the Broncos. Probably fairly easy one again. Caden?
I think the Broncos will win. They should be, but I don't think the Broncos are as good as people are making them out to be. They are quite a solid team, but they are nothing special. But they should beat the Raiders. I believe they will. I don't think the Raiders are going to get a win until they play the Chiefs, if I'm being honest, which is a bold claim, but I think that's what's going to happen.
Max?
I think it's an easy win for the Broncos. the Raiders are one of the most unencouraging teams in the entire league. Every time I watch them, which is every week because of Kian, obviously we live in the same house, I have to watch it. It's just really sad to watch it. And the Broncos at the minute, the defense, one of the best in the NFL, maybe. Bo Nix, we were talking about this before we started recording. I think he's the second best quarterback from this class. I think he's better than Drake May. He's better than Caleb Williams. Right now, on current form, maybe better than Jane Daniels, but overall, Jane Daniels is the number one for me. Yeah, I think the Broncos will probably walk it, to be honest.
Bo Nix, QB1 in this draft class, and I'll get onto this later. I love the bloke. I think he's unbelievable. And the Broncos have been so good in the last couple of games. And I just think it's just a team that works. They get what they need to get. And, Bo Nix is doing all that he's doing without any, he's got Cortland Sutton, but it's just not a great receiving core at all. I think if they end up with a good receiver in this draft, we could really see a decent Broncos team next year. Not saying this isn't a decent team because it is, but I think we could have like a playoff contending Broncos team next season, which is mental to say after such a quick turnaround. But I did see a TikTok as well, and it was sort of related to the Broncos, and it was sort of saying about the Cowboys. I can't remember what his name is on the American TV, but he was saying the Cowboys should trade everything, try and get Shedeur Sanders in the draft, and just hit reset, which is an interesting one to me.
Just re-sign Dak.
Yeah, I was like,
just re-sign Dak.
He was comparing Dak Prescott to Russell Wilson. I was like, it's a bit different, but I love the Broncos. I love Bo Nix at the minute, and I'm going to take the Broncos to
the Cowboys. The Cowboys need to draft Ashton Jenney.
Yeah, 100%. It's the most obvious draft pick ever.
They should have got Derrick Henry in free agency, and he went to the Ravens instead. They need a running back. Their running game is non-existent. They got Rico Dowdle, Zeke, who's way past it, and Deuce Vaughn was getting carries the other day on Monday night. They need a running game badly.
100%. Next up, and I think looking at these, it's either this or Monday Night Football is our probably game of the week potential. The Packers against the 49ers on Sunday. Max, you can start us off.
Packers every day of the week. I didn't even look. It's going to be a good game, I think. But I instantly, when I would do my predictions the other day, Packers for me. I don't think the 49ers are serious this season. They're the bottom of that division, and I think they've still got like the second best odds to win it somehow. The injuries aren't helping. They keep getting more. It looks like they've got a different lineup every week, which is unfortunate. But the game's the game, and the Packers, I'm really high on them this season to go maybe to the conference game of the NFC. I don't know. Yeah, Packers. I think they should easily win this one, to be honest.
I normally do a couple of edgy ones, and I don't know if it's necessarily edgy, but I'm going to back the 49ers in this one. I've just got a weird feeling they're sort of season on the line sort of game. The Packers have looked shaky in a couple of games, and it's just not been clicking as much as they would want to. Like, even against the Bears, I don't think they were very good at all, and they got very lucky to win that game. They should not have come out of that game with a win, in my opinion. But the Niners, they have that tough loss to Seattle this week, and it's just a team that sort of realizes if they don't win this game, their season's probably done. And also, that division is crazy, as you said. I think they're one win out of top of the division, despite being 5-5. Like, it's just not a great division this year at all. But I'm going to go with the 49ers. I think I don't know if necessarily it's an upset, but I'm going to go with the 49ers to win this one.
I think the Cardinals are going to win that division.
We can get on to that next, because that's the next game. So.
Yeah, I genuinely think the Cardinals are going to win that division, and I've backed them this week. I'll start who they're playing again? I forgot. I don't write down who they're playing. I just write down. Yeah, I think the Cardinals, big divisional matchup. If they win this, they genuinely are on track to win the division, and I think they're capable. Kyler Murray he's got me starstruck this season. He's playing like the Kyler Murray that I expected when he got drafted in 2019. Is the number one overall pick, and I think they can make the playoffs and then get absolutely battered in the first round. But until that point, it'll be really fun to watch.
Okay, sticking with the Packers 49ers before we move on to that Cards game.
Yeah, I got a bit carried away there.
I didn't even realise. My bad.
I think the Packers will win. And the 49ers, it's a sad downfall for the 49ers. They have not been amazing this year. Still a good team. They could find a way to sneak in, like maybe to the top of the division, but We don't know. But I think the Packers they've got a good buzz around them at the moment, I believe. And I think a win against the 49ers would boost them just that little bit more. And they could go to the conference game for the NFC.
Max, you've just basically covered yours, so I won't ask you again to go over your Cardinals predictions. So you're taking the Cardinals in that one.
I didn't realise that Caden hadn't done his Packers 49ers one yet, to be honest.
Caden, Seahawks, Cardinals?
I'm going to take the Cardinals on this one. I think it should be straightforward. It was for me. Cardinals, very exciting this year. Didn't expect them to be as good as they have been. Kyler Murray's found form this year. And every time I've watched them, I've enjoyed watching them. They're a fun team to watch, I believe. So I will take them over the Seahawks.
You said it was an easy one. I think it would have been a lot easier had the Seahawks not beaten the 49ers this week, I think. I've still gone with the Cardinals because I really do, like Matt said, I do think they are really impressive this year, all things considered. But I think there is an argument there for the Seahawks. There's a weird team. They're in that sort of playoff contention. They should probably get in. I don't know. It'll be a weird one if they can sneak it or not. But it's a weird team. I don't really know what to expect from them every week. 1 week they can turn up and be unreal. Next week they can be useless. So I think that win makes it a bit tougher. But I'm still going to pick the Cardinals to win this game. I just think they're playing really well. They're on a good little run. I don't see any reason why it can't continue. I think, as you said, Kyler Murray's been great. Marv's finding his feet now in the NFL. Now he's got some snaps under his belt, getting better every week, as we all expected he would be. Is probably the second best receiver in this class, in my opinion. But obviously, I'm biased towards Malik Neighbors. I'm going to go with the Cardinals for this one. Next up, we have the Rams against the Eagles. As an avid Eagles hater.
Hang on. Did Caden do his prediction then?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
For the Seahawks 49 Cardinals?
Yeah, because I skipped over you because I want to try to Caden.
Never mind then. I'm losing the plot today.
Next up, Rams Eagles. As an avid Eagles hater, I'm going to pick the Eagles, unfortunately. I really wish I could back against them because I don't like them, but they're just unreal at the minute. Saquon's a joke, as I knew he would be. Everyone knew he was great, but I don't think he was this good, to be fair. He's definitely turned it up a notch since he's moved to Philadelphia, which is really helpful. Cheers, Saquon. But yeah, I just think the Eagles team seems a bit unstoppable at the minute. As you said, they are due for that little slide, and I do wonder if it's coming soon, but I don't know. I just think the way they're playing, I just don't see it happening. Like that last season when they had the slide, they were winning the games. It's a bit like the Chiefs, though, I think they were last year. They were winning the games, but they weren't doing it all entirely convincingly. I think they were due a little slide, and I think the Chiefs might suffer from the same thing. Maybe not on the same extreme case that the Eagles had second half of last season, but I think it might be a little bit. But I'm going to bet the Eagles in this one. Max?
I'm quite high on the Eagles at this point of the season. Did say they're going to have the little slide. I'm still waiting for that to happen. But when we get to our little segment that we've got towards the end, you will see that I am rather high on the Eagles. I think if the Lions don't make the Super Bowl, which, by the way, we didn't point out, the first time in the Lions' history, they are like the top of the odds to be in the Super Bowl. That's never happened in their entire history of a franchise, which is insane. I think if the Lions don't make the Super Bowl in the NFC, it's the Eagles for me. I just think they've got what it takes. They've got everything at the minute. Defense, offense, everything's just working. So I'm going to take them in this game. The Rams just don't move me at all, to be honest. They got a win against the Patriots. Well done.
Caden?
Yeah, I think the Eagles are one of the best teams in the NFL at the moment. They're another team that are fun to watch. They don't just do the Steelers tactic and kick the field goals till they get a win. They're actually enjoyable to watch. Saquon's just been absolutely ridiculous this year. And the Eagles, very exciting at the moment, could go all the way to the conference game. I think the NFC's got some good competition this year, especially at the moment, because all the teams you expect to be falling off now aren't falling off. They're still picking up wins. So I'm very excited to see what happens in the playoffs in the NFC.
Finally, our Monday Night Football game, and probably arguably the game of the week as well, as we said about the Packers 49ers, but the Chargers take on the Ravens on Monday Night Football. Another good Monday Night Football game. It's great to see some entertaining games finally on prime time. I'll start as a massive fan of the Chargers at the minute. It's a difficult one because I feel like the Ravens need to win this. I don't think they can really afford to lose again 2 games in a row. So that's part of me leaning towards that. But I'm just so high on the Chargers and Herbert at the minute. I just think they're unbelievable. So I am going to stick with the Chargers. I just think the way they play football is just so effective. They can just grind out and win games. And when you're outscoring the Bengals offense, that's quite a feat because that is a very, very good offense and has very rarely been outscored like just at straight points. It's not easy to get into that position. I think the Ravens, obviously, we know they're great, but there is a slip in them, as we saw against the Steelers, just could not get going all game. Even Derrick Henry struggled. I think it was his first fumble in 3 years, actually, for Derrick Henry against the Steelers. And as the Ravens, I was quick to point out, it would obviously for them happen against the Steelers, but I'm going to take the Chargers in this one. Caden?
I've gone for the Chargers as well. I didn't realise how good they were until I watched their game against us. They are a very, very good team. I didn't understand how good they were. But, yeah, it's probably a very good game, like you said, maybe game of the week. And I think the Chargers will get a win. I think the Ravens are falling off a bit. I think we've touched on it a couple of times in the last couple of weeks. The Ravens have just not been that good this year compared to what they should be. And I think that'll continue and the Chargers will beat them.
Max, to finish it off.
I've got a few things to say about this one. Obviously, it's the Harbaugh derby. No one's mentioned that yet. Jim versus John. That's going to be very, very interesting. It's a really tough one, and I'm scared that it's not going to live up to the hype because sometimes the primetime games just don't deliver, and you think it's going to be a really good game and it ends up being low scoring. I don't know. Both of these teams have had big shootouts with the Bengals this season. Maybe they can do it with each other. The one thing that scared me about the Chargers is how easily they let the Bengals back into that game. There were 3 scores up at one point, was it? Maybe more than that. I don't actually watch that game, but I watched the highlights.
It was 27-6, I believe it was at one point.
Yeah, and then just really easily let them back in. That concerns me slightly. The defense might have to step up big time against this Ravens offense, but also the Ravens defense are going to have to step up because, like we said, Justin Herbert's playing out of his skin at the minute. He's finding weapons. J.K. Dobbins is having quite a good season. I'm going to pick the Chargers. I was genuinely 50-50 on this one, but I'm going to take the sweep. I'm going to pick the Chargers. I'm going to back Justin Herbert because I'm a big fan, and I have been since he got drafted.
I'd like to say as well, I have spoken about it a couple of times on the pod, but I think that Chargers defense might be the best in the league at the minute. It's unbelievably good, and they had a bit of a slip against the Bengals, but I think it's a great little unit. So I think it's worth mentioning as well. They can contain that Ravens offense if they're on it. So definitely be. You are
Tuipulotu. He's having a good season, which is good for them as well because obviously their edge rushers, the main two, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, they're both getting a bit older. They might have to move on soon. So it's nice to know they've got a future edge rusher who can make things happen as well.
100%. So that's our prediction done for this week. You'll come back and we probably had an absolute stinker. So Cian should have been at the bottom. If not, we'll add them in on an overlay here. But finally, sort of 2 questions to round it off. We're going to do a little segment from mid-season awards, maybe a bit late. We're into the tail end of the season now, but we're still at sort of the middle period. So I'm going to ask for your MVP, your Offensive Player of the Year, your Defensive Player of the Year, and your Rookie of the Year. So I'll start with you, Max. You can just go through all of them if you want.
Go through all of them?
Yeah, just go for it.
Right, okay. MVP, Josh Allen. I feel like that's obvious. I don't know. He's having a great season. He just knocked off the Chiefs with that run at the end, which is that people are going to come back to that run and be like, that. If the Chiefs don't get the Super Bowl, people are going to come back to that run and be like, that was the moment. Offensive Player of the Year, Saquon Barkley. I think since he's moved to Philadelphia, he's become a machine, back to his former self, if not better. This might be the best season we've seen him have. Backwards hurdles and shit. It's insane. Defensive Player of the Year, I've gone with Trey Hendrickson. Once again, he's the best player in a very, very bad Bengals defense, he's kind of like the Joe Burrow of that defense. He's just not getting as much notice because the rest of the team's shit. And then rookie, I've gone with Quinyon Mitchell, the cornerback for for the Eagles because he has been locking down wide receivers every week, and I feel like he might be going slightly under the radar. Him and Cooper DeJean have both been very, very good in that Eagles secondary.
Okay.
I think MVP has to be Josh Allen. I think we said in one of the first episodes of this year that he's going to be the MVP. It was already locked in. And I think that game against the Chiefs has just solidified it. I can't name a better player at the moment than Josh Allen, so he should be the MVP. Offensive Player of the Year, I do want to say Jamar Chase because of the ridiculous numbers he's put up in that Bengals team. He definitely would get it if we were winning the games. Same with, like we said, with Joe Burrow being in the MVP race if we were winning games. But I think there's a good chance that Jamar Chase could win Offensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year, I'm thinking TJ Watt. He's a very, very crucial part of the Steelers' success this year. I don't think they'd be anywhere near where they are without him. He's irreplaceable, and he's put up the numbers to prove it. And my Rookie of the Year, I'm going with Jaden Daniels. I know you won't like that, James, but he went into this Commanders team that no one had any hope for. He went in and he's just absolutely carried them through this season. And especially if he can continue to keep winning games, he should, without a doubt, be the Rookie of the Year.
So MVP for me, I am going to agree with Josh Allen, but I really do believe Justin Herbert should be in that conversation if he continues the way he's going. I think at the minute I'll give it to Allen because he's had a better season so far. But I think if Herbert wins most of his games for the rest of the season, he genuinely should be in that conversation because that Chargers team is ridiculous. He's been great, but Josh Allen is just Josh Allen. That win over the Chiefs as well just proves how good he actually is. If anyone had any doubts, which I don't think they did. Offensive Player of the Year, don't know how this hasn't really been mentioned, but Derrick Henry for me, 100%. He's been scoring touchdowns for actually every game for the Ravens. You know, we always knew he was great, but this is just elite level running back now. We always knew he could be outside in a good little offense, and obviously with Lamar Jackson, that is exactly what he's got. I think, I don't know how he got to me and he hadn't been mentioned, to be honest. I really was expecting everyone to sort of go down that route. But Defense Player of the Year, I think we've had a bye week, everyone's forgotten. It's Dexter Lawrence, 100%, and I don't even care if it seems biased. 9 tackles, 9 sacks as a nose tackle is absolutely ridiculous numbers, and they will not see them sort of numbers from any other nose tackle in this league for a very long time. I think the guy's unbelievable, and I think the only reason he won't win it is because we're so bad that he's going to get overlooked for someone on a winning team, which, again, will probably be fair enough, but I think as a defensive player, he's definitely been the best for me. And Rookie of the Year, I'm going Bo Nix. I really do believe it. If it was Defensive Rookie of the Year, Max, I 100% agree with you. I'll go Quinyon Mitchell or Cooper DeJean. I think they've both been really good.
Jared Verse as well was a shout. Jared Verse has been good for around.
100%. Jared Verse definitely in that defense. The defensive one actually probably as just as hard as the offense because you got Jared Verse and Quinyon Mitchell, I think, are the two front runners 100% with Cooper DeJean just behind them. But I'm going Bo Nix. I love Bo Nix. I think I think just statistically wise and how well the season's gone, I think that Commander team that offensively is better than that Broncos team, which is saying something because it's still not great. But at least they've got that outright receiver in Terry McLaurin, which Courtland Sutton really isn't at that level, in my opinion. And I just think he's just getting better every week. You know, he should have beaten the Chiefs, was so unlucky. He's just performing. I think as well, it's more like value for expectation. Jaden Daniels' second pick, everyone's expecting to be good, but everyone was saying Bo Nix was a reach. He was going to be a bust. He wasn't NFL ready, and he's proven all of them wrong. And I really do respect him for just how well he's been playing for the Broncos. So, as I said, if it was defensive as well, I'd 100% for Quinyon Mitchell or Jared Verse in for that one. But as this one, I'm going to go for Bo Nix as an overall. Our last question is one Max came up with. Who's our favourite players with weird names as a little fun segment to end the podcast? Go on, Max, as it was your idea. You can start.
Look, originally I'd have gone with the GOAT, Clinton Dix, because he's the GOAT of weird names in the NFL. However, I found a new one just last weekend. He's a Dolphins cornerback called Storm Duck. And that is a fucking brilliant name. I'm sorry. I had to find a way to mention him on this podcast. That's the only reason I brought the question.
No, because I was I have the same one. It's Storm Duck, and I noticed it on the inactive list for the Dolphins a week ago.
I was watching Red Zone, and they were like doing the thing where they like analyze it live, and it popped up with his name next to him, and I was like, "Does that say Storm Duck?" I've never heard of him before. He's my favorite name in the NFL now.
Yeah, no, it was me too, and I was going to bring it up on the Dolphins bit, but when you thought of the question, I thought I can just bring it up here. I think it's a quality name. There's also one of the
Storm
Texans
Duck.
where he's got like 2 apostrophes in his name, or
Toa
3.
Toa. Henry
Yeah,
Toa
it's
Toa.
Yeah.
it's like a weirdly good name. Like he's got like 3 apostrophes in his last name.
He's having a good season too.
He is as well.
Mentioned
He's
him
a
in the
really
Texans
good
part.
player. But you know, Storm Duck for me, 100%. It's a great name. There's so many names coming out. Like I don't know what it is with Americans and these names, but you gotta respect the balls to call your kid Storm Duck, I suppose.
Clinton Dix is still the goat though.
Caden,
I don't know how no one's mentioned the goat of names, Kool-Aid McKinstry.
oh yeah,
Name is Kool-Aid.
He's up there.
You can't get better than that.
100%. So that is it for us this week. Next week we'll be back with our predictions results. So Caden will probably be happy because the Bengals haven't had to play. Thank you, obviously, to Caden and Max for joining me as normal, and we will see you all next week.
Cheers.
Goodbye.
See you later.